Okay, I think we got the bugs worked out. Good morning once again. We will move on now with the break being over and move on to the next part of the program. This is track 1 continuing, entitled Marketing Your Practice, How to Get People to Walk Through Your Door. We have Dr. Allison Edwards and Dr. Douglas Farrago, and they need no further introduction, so I yield to you.
Yeah, I think we both... Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Does Doug get to talk?
Hello? Can you guys hear me? Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
You better
Awesome.
hear me.
Thank you for joining us today. So Doug and I are going to talk about marketing your practice, how to get people to walk through your door, or, let's see if I can make this work, pitches and funnels. So the talk is going to be broken up into 2 basic sections. In the first part, we're going to talk about laying the foundation for a really good pitch, and then give you guys a couple examples of how to craft a pitch. We're then going to pivot and start talking about the marketing or sales funnel and kind of give an explicit rundown of how to systematically think about bringing patients into your practice. We do have some objectives here. They're listed in the program. The idea is that we're going to demonstrate effective messaging, explain how to network, and how face-to-face interactions are key to building a practice, especially if you're new to a community. We're going to master how to explain what you do and who you do in a succinct, sexy way so that people want to learn more. And then with the funnel, we're going to create a pathway to going from networking and social media presence to getting enrollments.
All right, so my name is Doug Farrago. People come up to me all the time and ask me how to pronounce my name, and I do not get offended when you get it wrong. It's not a problem. It's official. The official way to pronounce my name is Doug. I've been in practice 22 years. And I started medical school in 1990, which it's feasible that there's people here that my medical career is older than them, which makes me like extremely nauseous. I mean, like I want to vomit. It's amazing how old I'm getting. But I've been doing DPC for 5 years. I've written 2 books on direct primary care because there were no other books out there. The other books were garbage, and so there'll be better books after mine. I get that. I don't have them here to sign this year. I chose not to do that, but you know, it's a large crowd, so I'm kind of bummed because cha-ching, that would have been good money.
Marketing.
Yes, but you still can get it on Amazon if you'd like. And to be honest, I don't really make much money on my books, as far as you know. So we here in DPC doesn't exist without good marketing. You've got to figure that out. This topic is really important because it's never, it could be much longer than it is, but you need to understand how important that is. Even though I've been filled for 3 years, I still market regularly, and we'll talk about why that's so important.
Okay, so when I proposed this talk to the foundation, I realized that for legitimacy's sake, we would need somebody to balance me. So I'm relatively new in my career, just started and young, and so I needed somebody as old as Doug to give me some legitimacy. So thank you, Doug. I appreciate you. So my name's Dr. Allison Edwards. I graduated from the University of Kansas in 2013, migrated over to the University of Colorado for my family medicine residency, and served as chief my final year. Go KU, go Buffs, all that. Anyway, that same final year, I realized that I couldn't see myself in a career as a primary care physician in the fee-for-service system, and was either going to go back to waiting tables or needed to find something different. And so that's when actually I shadowed with like Lisa Davidson and some others, Ryan Newhoffel, and decided to launch my DPC practice after graduation. Only problem was that I had a loan repayment program that mandated that I move about 600 miles away from my colleagues and professional network. So I had to start my practice from scratch. And so, and that's true of you too, right, Doug?
I don't even know.
So we both had to grow our practice
yes,
by
scratch.
Yes, he did. He had to grow from scratch. Yes. It's true. He just can't remember. So anyway, so we both had to get very good at marketing, and we had to do it quickly. And so just so that we can get an idea of who's in the room with us today, how many of you guys are actually out there practicing DPC right now? Okay. How many of you are the support staff that make the office run? So nurses, receptionists, MAs, awesome spouses, frankly, are largely what makes this run. Cool. How many of you guys are firm date set going to open DPC? Yay, awesome. Congrats, guys. And then how many people in here are very just DPC curious? Like, okay, all right, wonderful. Awesome. Anybody in here not interested in DPC? Do we have any dentists that are confused and lost? That's wonderful. Dentists can go direct too.
Let me interject on that dentist thing. It's embarrassing enough. I am getting older, but the first morning here, I was maybe I'm demented or I drank too much the night before. But I was eating breakfast, and finally someone said, "Can I help you, sir?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Well, this is for dentists." And I was like spitting out my eggs, like, "Oh, I'm in the wrong spot." So
dentists are welcome.
And you can be in the wrong spot. Yes. So
yes.
Thanks. You're here.
Good. Awesome. Okay. Before we start, Doug is going to lay some ground rules for us.
Okay, I'll come up here because it'll be easy for me to see some disclaimers. This is not all inclusive about marketing. I would hope there even be a bigger crowd. You got to understand that you have to learn more than marketing we're going to teach today, but this can't be everything. It takes hours. There's great books on marketing. I'll mention one later. Podcasts, I like Amy Porterfield podcast on marketing. It's called I Love Marketing by Joe Polish. 2 great podcasts that will give you a ton of information that you can translate in DPC. Second is you can do this. People have excuses. I've seen it on Facebook. I've seen it here. I don't want to learn about marketing. Let me tell you something. If you want to pay a consultant, that's up to you, but most consultants still don't know what DPC does. They have no idea how to market you if they don't understand. They don't have the passion that you know. And so you can do this. There may be reasons people say, well, I'm old, Yeah.
Doug can do it. You can do it.
If I can do it, you can do it. I have no time. I have no time? You have no patience, dude. If you got no patience, then you have time, okay? You can't sit in the office and twiddle your thumbs. You got to figure out how to get patience in the office. And 3, you don't want to do it, which is fine. If you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. I'm not sure what you're doing in DPC, but it's a learnable skill, and the skill we'll teach you today. The third, disclaimer is you need to be great. You need to be so good, as Steve Martin said, they can't ignore you. You need to deliver an experience. This means nothing. Marketing means nothing unless you're awesome in your office. And I'm not saying how smart or educated, whatever. You need to work hard to be great. I can't express that enough because it's important to them to know that when they go in there, they have that experience that they can brag to others and so forth. If you don't, it's a problem because you cannot put whipped cream on dog crap, okay?
This is true.
Now, if your office is not ready to go, if you're not saying and delivering or over-delivering, then don't start marketing. Get your stuff tight and get it right. Now that I've killed your appetite, we're going to talk about selling yourself, which is maybe unlike prostitution. We'll tell you that in a second.
Yep,
here.
right. So, part of the original idea behind this talk was we actually pitched it as DPC as the small business enterprise and realized that the scope was massive. But we still want to try and be very business-like in using terms and appropriate vernacular for being small business owners. And so part of that is thinking about business classifications. So there's like the retail industry, there's tech, there's healthcare, there's hospitality, etc. I argue that direct primary care is a service industry. And service is about an action of helping someone else. And you as the direct primary care doctor are the one providing that action. So when you are selling your business, you're selling that action, you're selling that service, you are selling yourself. Okay, this is super important to understand, much like Peter here, who is also selling himself, but for different reasons. And you're a complex human being, and you're very intelligent. And when you start to talk to somebody about what you do, and I'm sure everyone in this room has experienced this, you start to get caught up in all the details of what direct primary care is and explaining it to someone and answering all their questions. And you forget that really ultimately you need a very nice, clear message for your marketing. You need a pitch that you can say in your sleep. You need to have that nailed down. And so that's what we're going to work on today. We're going to work on messaging. But first, we're going to do some participation. And I want everybody to participate, even the dentists. I want you all to look at each other and pick up. We're going to pair up. Some of you are in odd numbers within your table, but pair up with somebody. You are going to give your 30-second elevator pitch to the person sitting next to you. Yes, you are. You're going to do this, okay? 30 seconds for the first person, 30 seconds for the second person, and then we'll regroup. And we really, if this is a struggle, that's instructive, okay? Here we go.
Pair up,
so
pair
10
up.
seconds, introduce yourself, pair up.
Good job. You're doing great.
Great.
And keep ripping on me. It's funny.
I know. Keep falling asleep.
What was actually right there?
Doug. People are actually looking at each other.
No, you did. This is a great idea.
Okay, switch.
You're
Wow.
okay, guys. Switch.
Switch partners. If don't let person number one dominate. Person number two, it's your turn.
Is coming out of that is you, right? What comes out of this? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Time.
Okay, great, wonderful.
Quiet.
How was that? How was that? Raise your hand if you think you nailed it.
Who nailed it?
Who nailed it? Okay, or did somebody's partner nail it? Did you hear one that was particularly compelling? Great, awesome. How many of you felt like you struggled? Wonderful, this is great. We have a lot of learning opportunities in this room. Pitching is hard, it's super hard, and that's what we're here to talk about today. We wanted you to go through this exercise and actually do it because we wanted a concrete benchmark for you guys to reflect on through the rest of this talk, and i.e. we wanted you to know that you needed to improve because we all can improve on this. As Doug was saying earlier, do you remember that you were saying this?
I really.
As Doug was saying earlier, you have to have a great product. So start with that, right? Like if you actually need to leave this talk at this point because your product needs some development, by all means, please feel free. But once you have that good product, you need to sell your product. And in order to sell your product, your services, you need to have a clear message. And when you have a clear message, you have clear marketing, and you can develop a campaign that can move about and that can be adapted depending on the situation. So that's what we're going to work with today. Let's focus on our message. I hope that this is familiar to a lot of you in the room because it means that you've been thinking about your messaging and sort of how you frame what you do. So this is Simon Sinek's Golden Circle, and actually multiple speakers, the panel yesterday, this talked around this if they didn't explicitly mention it, but this is the guy who is famous for creating the book Start With Why. So I'm going to shamelessly just talk about this for like 5 minutes because I think he's smarter than I am, and why would you reinvent the wheel? So Start with why. His central thesis is that any form of communication, any form of storytelling, whenever you're trying to convey a message, you need to start with the most central, elemental core of that message. You need to start with the emotion that it's built on and the passion. And this is what he means. He means that center of everything you try and convey. And by the way, this isn't just marketing. This is like how to be a better storyteller, how to be a better writer. Start with that emotional pitch. Your why is your belief. It's your passion. It's the reason you are leaving your, loan repayment, hefty salary, et cetera, to start a new business. And, this is insane. He actually talks about in this book that nobody who is rational should start a small business because the chances of you failing are quite high. The majority of people fail. So you have to have a passion, okay? So what is that passion? Once you developed, or at least articulated your passion, the hows are your actions, your verbs that realize that belief, that passion. And once you have those two things in line, your what becomes very obvious. The what is sort of the nouns, the things, the tangibles that come about when you start to build a message or build a story from passion to action to result. This is Brad. We're going to talk about Brad next. So it's really hard to conceptualize this, I think. So Simon Sinek has a really good passage in here where he talks about this guy who's going on a first date, and how he explains himself using the start with what, which is the bad way, followed by the start with why, which is the good way. Okay, so Brad is single. He uses Tinder. He found this lovely woman, actually smoking hot lady, who he matched with, and so he's sitting down for his first date with her. He's pumped because not only is she smoking hot, she's a doctor, so he's like, ooh, she's smart and probably wealthy. What he doesn't know is that she's a DPC doctor, so she is smart, but maybe not wealthy. So anyway, so Brad sits down, she sits down, and she says, Brad, tell me about yourself. Brad says, nervous, I'm extremely rich. I have a nice house, I got a big car, I know a lot of famous people, because I'm on TV all the time, and I'm actually done pretty well for myself. She's not impressed. She's like, when will this date end? Like, I'm done with scrubby Brad. Let's give Brad a second chance. This time he's gonna start with why, okay? They sit down. She says, Brad, tell me about yourself. This time, Brad goes, you know what I love about my life? I love that every morning I wake up and I get to inspire people to do the things that inspire them. I do this on TV and in movies, and it makes me, gives me the opportunity to be surrounded by famous people. And I've actually done well for myself. I've made a lot of money. I have a big house and a nice car, and I'm really passionate about what I do. It's what keeps me up, or what wakes me up in the morning. Keeps them up at night, maybe. But anyway, this is a compelling way to speak. When you speak in this style, so Brad told the same information to her in two very, very, very different ways. When you speak in this way, it affects people, it affects people in a really emotional way that is central to that sort of limbic system that influences our gut decisions. Because whether you guys want to admit it or not, we are all emotional creatures, we are not logical creatures. So if you start your DPC pitch at some sort of a networking event, somebody's like, hey, tell me what you do. You're like, oh, well, I'm a doctor, and instead of having 7-minute visits, I have 60-minute visits, sometimes 30-minute visits, and I have wholesale pricing, and I can save you like $5 a month, which is like $60. No, you're gonna lose them. Nobody cares about this logical stuff. Be passionate. You have something of greater value to sell, but you have to start with why. So, in front of you guys, there's a worksheet that has that funnel on it that we're kind of going to go through. So we're going to put 2 minutes on the clock and have you guys sit down, put pen to paper. There should be pens on the table. You might have to steal them from nearby tables. But put pen to paper, write down your why. And even if you're familiar with this, even if you've kind of gone through this exercise before, I think that's equally important for you to do it again, because these things evolve over time and they need practice. So we're going to give you a couple minutes.
Okay. All right, guys. This is just to hold on to. We're going to talk some more. I'm not going to lie to you. Actually, I think I'd go out with Brad, too. Even the bearded Brad, I don't know. And my wife would be pissed. But so let me give you some more skills, all right? It's important that we give you things to go home with, especially on marketing. I don't want to speak at you. We're trying to get you to work through some of this and give you multiple techniques, multiple ways to learn your pitch. No one pitch is right. No one pitch is right for you versus the other person. No one pitch is right for you in different situations. You're going to learn multiple pitches and multiple ways to come at these pitches, and we're going to try to teach you as many as I can figure out, and we figured out to help you, and this was something we had to learn. This is not about being pushy. You don't want to be that person at a party that's the multi-level marketing person selling soap that everybody hates, okay? You don't want them leaving you thinking, what an ass. You don't want that, right? You don't want to be pushing and selling something. You want to figure out what that conversation is going on in their head, which a lot of you know already. You want to give them a compelling reason to join. If you do not give them a compelling reason to join, the human default is the default to price. And the default to price is, I'll just sign up for a plan or not and never show up to the doctor. So you need to have those compelling reasons to join. And we live in this 7-second soundbite generation. I mean, it's insane how you watch a commercial and those clips are every few seconds, they switch the image. We live in that type of world right now, so you're going to have to get your pitch. We have it 30, sometimes 7 seconds. But you got to get it so you have it honed down so that at any moment you can, if they woke you up in the middle of the night, you can do it. This book I found, and actually recently, because I'm always trying to find an edge to figure things out. Like I said, I'm still marketing to maintain my brand, to maintain my practice, even though I'm at 630 or 40. The one-page marketing plan by Alan Dibb is a very good book. I highly recommend it because the full book has more than what we'll talk about today, and it actually converts very well to DPC. But one other way that he talks about getting that 30-second pitch is just using this model. It's the you know, and then parentheses problem. What we do is solution, in fact, proof. So, example from DPC, someone will ask me, what do you do? I'm a family doctor who does DPC, or direct primary care. And they'll say, what's direct primary care? And I'll say, well, you know how you can't get in to see your doctor, or you have to wait forever, and you're in for 3 minutes, he's looking at the computer. What we do is a monthly membership model that allows me to give patients the time they need and really understand them and know them, because I have so few patients. In fact, I have a waiting room that I never use. Patients bring their family just to kind of have them play. That's using that model. That's a way, I'm just trying to give you another model that's from this book. It's very good. I highly recommend that book, okay? Next slide. Some other different techniques that you can take, and I know you're not going to go through, we're not going to go through an exercise today, but just something to hold on to. These are hooks. So the value hook is someone say, well, why would I join your practice if I'm paying for insurance? Do you have a deductible? Yeah, it's a $6,000 deductible. If you go to the doctor 4 times in a year and get any labs done, because my labs are 90% off, you've paid for my membership. And I think you've got a much better experience. Or the accessibility, where you can explain that you're on 24/7. I'm the doctor that will see you and know you all the time. And it's much more comprehensive with longer visits. And it's much more personable because you do know me, my staff. They hate having to show their ID and their insurance card. They just was there last week, okay, in other offices. Here, it's like, hey, Mary, how you doing? Come on in. That's something that you can show as a value. The excellence point that I actually put this in my book as well is, I hear that in discussions, and one of the lines that definitely hooks them, and I'll say, when they're on the fence, and it's like, listen, I remember getting a riding lawnmower, and a year or two it broke down. It was a piece of crap. I finally got a John Deere. You know what? It's been like 10 years. You get what you pay for. And they kind of relate that to what you do as a family doc. And as you get towards the end or middle of your practice, the exclusivity hook really does work. So they'll say, well, I'll think about it. I say, that's fine, you can think about it. I've only taken 600 patients, we're filling them fast, and that's all. We'll stop taking new patients at that point. That exclusivity is actually important to people. They want to be part of the club. They want to get past that velvet rope and actually be a cool person and part of that club. So these are some hooks that you can use. I didn't mention price. I don't want to mention price. I think we need to get out of that and value ourselves. Yes, we may save them. They'll ask, are you saving money? May save you money. It may not save you money, but the bottom line is you get what you pay for, and I think you'll get a better experience here. So you under-promise and you over-deliver. Next slide. This is now Allison.
So one style of pitch that you can develop. The other one is the what's called the Hollywood log line. If you're familiar with it, it's how Hollywood operates. So every movie or TV show has to be condensed down to be pitched to a producer. And so this is the 25 to 30 word sentence that people use to sort of get a producer's attention. The idea is that, here we go. The idea is that it has like the central characters, the conflict, and the resolution within that very, very short sentence. And if you're old enough to remember the TV guide, like Doug, or the Reader's Digest, or whatever it's called, every listing had a little log line next to it before the time. So this is what we're going for. So I'm going to give you actually a couple examples to sort of frame your mind as to how concise these are. So again, an entire movie in one sentence. So try and guess which one this is. So a Las Vegas set comedy centered around 3 groomsmen who lose their about-to-be-wed buddy during their drunken misadventures, then must retrace their steps in order to find him. Yes, very good, very good, very, very good. Okay, another example. A computer hacker learns from mysterious rebels about the true nature of his reality and his role in the war against its controllers. Yes, the Matrix, wonderful. Okay, so log lines work because they convey the entirety of a story in a very concise manner. And remember, you're giving a pitch to somebody, you're out, you're trying to set that first message, And so you want to be able to have a compelling sentence. You can't drone on about a lot of stuff like Doug always does. It has to be tight and it has to be condensed, okay? Sorry, Doug.
No,
Okay, so within the sentence, I want you to start thinking, who are your characters in this? Are the characters, are the main actors, are they your patients? Is it the society? Is it the population? Is it you? Are you the main character in this logline that you're writing? What's the conflict? The conflict is going to be different depending on who your character is. So if you're coming at this from a patient perspective, that conflict might be, hey, you know how you can never get in to see your doctor? If you're coming at it from your own professional experience, you can say, hey, to another, a fellow physician, hey, do you know how you get burnt out in the system? Things like that. Be a little bit more refined than that. That wasn't a good example. The emotion is that seed that we were talking about from earlier from Simon Sinek's work. It's the why. That's your belief. That's your passion. And then the resolution should come easily. If you've set up your characters, articulated the conflict, put a little emotion in that, you can come to a resolution within a pitch, okay? So the ones that I gave you, those examples, were a little bit flat. They weren't all that exciting. But the idea is to illustrate that you can be concise and tell an entire story in one sentence. And so we're going to do this again on your worksheet. It has listed what, and then the solution, et cetera, and then it also has this log line listed. Jot down, turn it over, use the back of the page. Give you a couple of minutes to sort of get your ideas on paper. Again, the idea is that we want to give you tangible things to take home to work on to practice, okay?
Okay. You guys put it away for now, and I will say that the pitches, if you can work on things, here's how I'd like to share that. Because we really don't have a good method. We may have one. One may be we'll try to get it on later on with this video. Maybe we can put it at the end on slides. But my email is dougfarrago@gmail.com. And if you want to email me your pitch you think is pretty good, I'm not judging any of them. I'm going to put them on dpcbook.com. It's just a whole placeholder site that I had. And I'll list as many elevator pitches so you can steal from each other, right? Why should you not be able to steal from each other? So, in fact, a lot of stuff I'm going to show you, I've stolen, and I'm going to offer to you. So, dougfarrago@gmail.com. I'll throw that on dpcbook.com, and then later on, you'll have 20, 30 elevator pitches that you can mix and match. Why do we even want you to do that? This is about marketing. You need a good practice. You can't put whipped cream on dog crap. Second, you market them. If they come to you, first of all, marketing is part of that pitch, but also if they come to you and your pitch is garbled and not right, you may lose them. We couldn't just go into how to get you to get patients on marketing plans without having this pitch down, which will move us into the next thing, which is the funnel. Funnel seems real complicated. It used to scare me, and I said, I'm just going to have to learn this. And it's just people, they just make it more complicated than it is. So it's just a way to sift people out that shouldn't be your patients. But wait a minute, everybody's your patient. That's not true. Everybody is not your patient. Not everybody loves you. Everybody in the world doesn't love you, and you don't want every patient. Some patients are toxic, some patients are just doesn't fit, some patients will be abusive, they're jumpers, they're going in for a month and out for a month, or whatever. Some patients want you to play CSI and figure out a mysterious disease that you're never going to figure out. So you are not marketing to everybody, and you have to figure out who you're going to market to and also have an understandable plan that's feasible. So from this same book, only 3% are ready to buy. And this is when my book, I actually said, if you're converting a practice, if you can get 10%, you're lucky. No, they love me. They don't love you. They don't love you enough to pay, okay? So if you get the 3% of ready to buy, 7% are very open to buying. And this is not my pie chart, but it actually fits exactly what I said. You may get 10%. The next 30% are interested, but not right now. That not right now is important, and that's the whole part of marketing. The next part is 30% they're not interested in, and the last 30% wouldn't take it even if it was free. How dare they? I am the greatest doctor ever. They're not coming, guys. It's just a reality. So here is this technical funnel. You'll see it on your sheet. It's not as much as it seems. I don't want to scare you with this, but it's actually a good way to think about things on how what your approach is to getting those patients. The goal, amazingly, of marketing is not to really sell them right away. 3%, remember? The goal is just to educate, 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 and get them to learn more about you, learn about DPC, learn about the good you're doing, learn about that you're an authority figure and a smart doctor, and keep hearing about you. And there's many methods to do that. So the first one we'll talk about here is they hear about you. And that is such things as, basically it's getting that, this is where the naive people stop. So what they do is they throw enough crap against the wall, enough spaghetti against the wall on advertising, and then see what sticks. I'm here to tell you, and I've said this in my book as well, I think putting an ad in the paper is horrible. Working with a lot of these guys that can try to pitch you to put on the radio usually doesn't work. And they throw all their budget money at that. It's not about throwing a shotgun approach. There has to be a strategy. And so on this, I'm going to work actually from the bottom up. One could be just creating a blog or creating nice posts out there on Facebook. If you get a story in the newspaper about you, not something you paid for, that works well. If you get that story, we'll flip over to a TV story. That works really well. That's great for you. Facebook does work. It's not as good as it used to be because now they don't. You can get all these likes, but they used to send out your post and all your likes would see it. Now they're forcing you to post with money to get all your people to see it. It's still worth it in my mind, but they haven't been fair. Word of mouth is what we say, oh, word of mouth is going to fill your practice. There's a tipping point that you have to hit before word of mouth will really work. And then you can do events, booths at fairs, just getting your face, and you want them to hear about you. The last one I want Allison to talk about, which is what she's better at, which is networking, and she'll tell you why.
We joke that I'm better at networking because Doug gets done with work at 5, goes home and eats his mechanical soft diet, and then goes to bed at 6. So I'm the one who's actually up and doing networking. This was as mature as my marketing strategy was before, this past probably 6 months, I started thinking more about a sales funnel and thinking like a business person. And this was all I was doing, all these things that Doug described, with a large percentage of my time spent actually networking and doing that face-to-face meet. Because remember, you're selling a service, and that service is based on you, and you are selling yourself. In my own personal example, I was new to the entire community, and so I had to put myself out there to show people like, hi, I am a real physician. I am a trustworthy physician, I think. I am not scary. And so I spent a lot of time networking. And networking is hard. I think a lot of people, extroverted, introverted, regardless, I think a lot of people are scared to network. And part of that is because they don't have this pitch down, which is why we're kind of pushing you guys to be really explicit about getting that message down. The second you have a pitch and a message solidified, it becomes as easy as reciting a script. You're an actor, you're there to tell people about what you do, and you do it in a way that's easy and very fluid and natural for you. So once you sort of get this messaging and the script down, networking becomes a game. You walk into a room of people and you say, all right, how many people can I talk to? How can I pick out the person who I think is going to be the most beneficial? Who are the connectors in this room? Because you're not necessarily networking to get the person in front of you to enroll. You're trying to spread a viral idea and make it contagious so that you have made that person that you're talking to passionate enough about what you do that then they are going to tell more people about it. And that comes from having that clear messaging and that emotional pitch. So I would highly recommend networking. There's about 1,000 different venues to do it, no joke. Anywhere from like BNI, which are sort of paid networking clubs that are very that wheel starts turning and you're encouraged to have a lot of meetings with people and blah, 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 and they try and measure metrics and whatnot, to things like the Chamber of Commerce. There's multiple chambers of commerce within the Kansas City metro where I'm based out of, based on different communities and counties. And different sectors of society, like we just joined the LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce, which is a really awesome group. And I think DPC is a really awesome place that we can afford for people who are marginalized in the healthcare industry. The other places would be like the Lions Club, Rotary Club. Getting up in front of, like CBiz actually has an entrepreneurial brown bag lunch that they offer. What other stuff? There's a whole bunch of different ways to do it. I actually went on meetup.com, or no. Is it meetup.com? Yes, okay. For a hot second I was like, match, I was still in Brad. I was still thinking about Brad. Meetup.com. And they have, if you type in entrepreneur, there's a whole bunch of different meetups that you can go to that are entrepreneurial focused. So they're not medical, they're not healthcare, but they're people who are doing small business. And the small business community is super receptive to DPC. So I would highly encourage you guys to hammer out your pitch, tighten it up, memorize it, and then get out there and meet people.
So I've actually done through Chamber of Commerce Leads when we first started, which is a Leads group, and they meet every 2 weeks, and my wife's my practice manager, and actually have my MA, and we rotate going there. And it wasn't, at first it was still trying to explain what we do, but by the end, I think 3/4 of those people are my patients right now. And so it does work, and they talk, because they're all small businesses. So next thing you want to get to is to learn about you. Getting there, they learn about me. I threw out a big ad in the newspaper. That's not really true. This is a process. This is slowly pulling that line in when you're fishing. You want to get them to your website. I'm a big believer that your website is important as a virtual brochure. Don't get too cute. If you confuse them, you can lose them. And so my website, and I'll show you a little bit, is very informational. And has some reasons why I want to get them there, not only to read about me, but I do want them to read about me. By the time I get them to see me, I want them to be educated and learn about me. So here's something I'm going to offer you guys. So let's go to my website. If you go to my website, it's Forest, like the forest, DPC.com. I have a pop-up. Now I use this because I offer them something called the Consumer Guide to Primary Care. What is that? It's a free PDF, and on those things, and I learned this actually from Joe Polish, who was a carpet cleaning guy, and I listened to it, and they actually showed how to do it step by step for any industry, plumbing to anything else. I said, sure, no one's done it for primary care, because our competition is horrible. They're not out there doing this. So in that are things like, 7 common complaints patients have about their primary care office, 6 ripoffs, and whatever I have down there, I've listed them out. How to pick a family doctor, all these things that people get, realize. She talked about the log line and finding your common enemy. The system's the common enemy, right? We hate it too, they hate it. I'm listing out these things that they hate. And then the last thing is why you should consider direct primary care. So then they learn about direct primary care, which by the way solves all the problems I just listed above. Patients will have to give me their email to get this. And now I've captured that, what's called direct response marketing. I can actually now go after them because I've got their email. The next slide. And by the way, I'm going to ask you later if you guys can go onto my website and pretend to be a patient, get that guide, and then fix it and put your name on it. It's free. You can just take my name off if you want and put my name on it. I don't really care. I'm just trying to help people out and help the movement of DPC. This is one of my favorite parts, which you think you're smart enough to know how people act. You just don't. And sometimes you got to try things. On my website, there's a section that says, do you want us to call you? Now, right above that, it actually has, hey, call us at this number and we'll set you up for a meet and greet. The number is right there. But they can actually put their information in if they want us to call them. My wife said, that's the stupidest thing in the world. Why would you do that? They're just going to call. I get people signing up all the time. And now I have their email. And we get to prove that in 24 hours, my medical assistant is going to call and says, well, you're interested in our practice. What can we do for you? And she'll then give them the pitch. She'll explain the practice. And she's great at it. So now we've got another way we've educated, we've taught them, and we now have their email address. Again, pulling it down that funnel and grabbing their information. Not to be pushy, not to be the multi-level marketing person, but to educate them.
And so when Doug and I were planning this talk, I also thought this was stupid. So I put it on my website to prove how stupid it was. Which didn't work because the first 25 people we had that filled this out that we followed up with subsequently joined. So now we have this on our website. Thank you, Doug.
So you just don't know what you don't know, and you get better at this. Now, after they learn about you, they think about you. You want to be, when they think of a cool doctor that's out there, oh, there's this one XYZ doctor that's doing great stuff. And how do they know that? Well, maybe they see your posts on Facebook. Maybe you're emailing them stuff about direct primary care, or maybe not. Maybe you're just educating them about some stuff going on in the community. So Lee had yesterday, him and his partner, Dr. Crouch, had a Facebook Live example. So you can do a Facebook Live example, and I actually have not done this. I'm filled, and I just haven't done. Actually, I've done it, but not full Facebook Live. But if I was to do it, I was talking to Allison here, that I would actually just talk about a medical problem, here's a PSA. Hypothyroidism, we don't screen for it. I think it's because of cost. But I catch more, when I screen all the time in my office, and I catch more TSH in the 40s and 50s from asymptomatic people. So I've always thought to myself, how is that possible that we don't recommend screening? It's a cost issue. So in my PSA, I would talk about that. We do screen. We find people asymptomatically because I have a $10 thyroid test, and I actually now able to treat people. This is Doug Farrago from Forest Direct Primary Care. Thank you very much. I didn't publicize myself at all. But in that video, I would say, hey, we screen things. We have a cheap test, and now they know where to go. It's all about learning and educating, getting your name out there. This is a long game, okay? You've got to put all these touch points out there so that people keep hearing about you, keep getting into your funnel, you keep getting their email, and then you can follow up with those emails. So my emails will be the direct primary guide, or we call them if they went into that other funnel or that other capture system. Then after the direct primary care guide, they'll get another email which will say, here's some videos. I've done videos that are on my site. I show them the video links again, saying here's some videos about what great direct primary care is, and then I usually stop. Some people continue, and that you can continue as long as you're not abusive with emails on, and I just haven't done that. So, so my offer will be, again, if you want to get that PDF and sign up on the pop-up, it's actually, again, on the website. Don't sign up for the call part, because you'll kill my staff, and they'll call you and ask you to join. So please don't do that. Just call for the PDF. Okay, so the next thing is they meet and greet, meet and talk to you. Now you've got them there. This is why it's so important. They should be sold. They should be sold by the time they get to see you, and the questions should be like, hey, I just want to join. And my questions are, let me find out a little bit about you. Because again, I want to know if it's the right fit for my practice. But that doesn't always happen. Again, you got to be ready for your elevator pitch, something we started with, and what's called, another way to talk about it is your unique selling proposition. I've used a couple terms here. The compelling reason to join, what's called unique selling proposition, your elevator pitch, your why. All these things sound like buzzwords, and they may be, but there's something you now need to know about because you're going to build your case and your strategy around it. So when they come to see you, you want to answer them and just be you, but you don't have to sell them. It's not, and I'll go into that in a minute. But I thought since we had some extra time that we were going to do, not all of these meet and greets go perfect. And don't let it frustrate you. I'm going to have a special patient here. Her name is Allison, and she's going to come meet me for the first time. So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. How can I help you?
I want to join.
Okay. Do you know anything about direct primary care?
I got spam. Your clinic spammed me. They sent me a lot of emails.
Okay.
I didn't open them.
So freeze, right? So first thing I'm thinking is, I got to get out of here. This is not okay. This is not going to work. All right. So the reason is that should have been screened out in so many different ways, right? So I'm going to have a discussion with a medical assistant who scheduled this meet and greet, who I will say, well, what's going on? She didn't know anything about our practice? How is that possible? And so we will figure that out. There has to be ways before they get in front of me to waste my time. I give them 15 minutes because this is not going to be a hard sell. So we may switch personalities here from Allison. Okay.
Oh, I read that 7-page document about how bad the system is and how great your direct primary care is. I'm very passionate about this.
Great. So what else do you want to know about it?
It sounds expensive.
Well, do you have an insurance product right now?
I do.
Okay. So do you pay a lot of money for that?
No, it's free.
Okay. And that's fine. The physician you go to now, do you like where you're going?
I used to. I mean, they're so busy.
Okay.
And I feel like, I don't know, I never see my doctor.
So the issue seems to be that you're not getting in when you want to get in and you want more time with your doctor.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is here, you are paying a service. You're paying their service, and you got to find out if it's financially affordable for you. I mean, cell phones cost a lot, cable costs a lot. So it may be worth it for you, it may not be. But what I can guarantee you is that we're going to give you the time you need when you need it. I know my patients, and I think I'm a better doctor. I used to be in that system, right. And I'm a better doctor than I was when I see people for 30 minutes versus when I see them for 3 or 5 minutes.
Okay. So, well, I just want to make sure that you can actually take care of me, because I'm actually really healthy. But I'm on like carvedilol and furosemide and prednisone. I also take methotrexate, and then I'm on some sort of a birth control. I don't remember. And what is that one? There's one for my blood pressure too.
Okay, so let me stop you right here. So this is the other thing we see a lot, right? We explicitly tell them this is not a medical visit, all right? And I'll talk to my medical assistant and say, I know, I told them. Okay, so it's not her fault. I'm not blaming her. We're educating each other and getting better at this. It took me years to get better at this. So I will say, I can't even listen. Legally, I'm not your doctor right now.
Okay.
And I won't be seeing you today.
But I need some refills.
Okay, so I will tell you, we're actually filled right now. And but we have a waiting list, and this is true. We have a waiting list, and you'll have to see the urgent care, because I'm not going to be your doctor until we reassess who our patient's going to be coming in. Or you can go back to your old doctor, but I'm not going to be able to fill. I think Christine would have told you that before you came in today.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Do you have any? Do you have any other questions today?
Well, I do want to sign up because you seem competent, and you actually look much younger than you do on your picture on the website.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, I like to think of it, maybe I'm just wiser, but...
Yeah, you look good.
Okay,
you look
thank you. I
good.
appreciate that. So, here, freeze that for a second. So, okay, if let's say that happened, I'm not looking to cherry pick. So she has 12, I don't care about those medical problems. That's now a challenge for me, that's fun. So if she says, I'm still wanting to join, well, okay, listen, all I can tell you is if you need refills, please go get the refills. You're on prednisone, you gotta go somewhere. It's not gonna be me. And honestly, have I broken this rule on cases? Yes, I absolutely have. When someone really is desperate, I'm not here to tell you exactly how to run your practice. I'm not here to tell you not to be a kind human being, and sometimes you do have to help people out. I've done that. But the bottom line is you'd probably be better off feeling them out, seeing what they are. Now, if someone actually says, listen, I really do want to come here, I have a great thing about your practice, I know I'm on a lot of medications, I take my medicine, whatever, yeah, okay, let's get you in. So I'm not really ever trying to take patients out of for a chance to be my patient for medical problems. However, there are some, again, I don't play CSI, and if they have I've been to 12 doctors and no one can figure this out, and I say, you know what, I'm not even that smart. Because I'm not going to play CSI, you're going to be frustrated. And these people, I've done it before, and they jump in a month or two. The other thing are jumpers. What I call jumpers. Jumpers are patients that are going to just join, and I want to get in now to get my meds refilled. I'm going to get in now, and I'm going to be leaving in a month. So I will tell you, this is what I do, and everybody has their own method. No one's right or wrong. I tell them, my physicals are an hour long with a half-hour follow-up after I go over your labs. They're always 4 to 6 weeks out, which is coincidentally after their second payment, okay? I will see you the next day. If you're sick tomorrow with a severe sinusitis, I will get you in. That's not a problem. So when you join, it's going to bill you immediately. I'm going to bill your registration fee immediately. So I've got now $160. I do $80 a month. And we'll see you the next day if you're really sick. But as far as if physical, it's about 4 to 6 weeks off. That has helped me a lot because now I've got that second month payment. So that's $80. That's, whatever, $240. And if they jumped, I didn't really lose that much money. So I do that for that reason. You will learn by experience that there are some people that will use you, and you really have to kind of be aware of that. We're going to keep going for a few more here. So after that, they join. I do believe that the FOMO worked, which is a fear of missing out. How you work it into your spiel is up to you. When I was early on, I'd say, people are joining so fast that I can't, even if you want to join, do it now because I'm going to have to, push out way later as people join. And I don't know how quickly I'll be filled. It sounds bad, but it is. You want them to not dilly-dally and finally get on that site and join up. Personally now, I meet and greet every patient. You can't join my practice without a password. We give that password after you come meet me. And then next week or so, we will ask you to join if it's a fit. And so that's the way I do it. I think if you're early in your practice, like when I started, I took whatever I could take because I wanted to make a living, and you're going to take your bruises and lumps at that time. And then come talk to me in a year or two, we'll talk. But next, the last part is getting that bottom of that funnel is once you create that raving fans, it's hard. 80 raving fans is not enough. right? So you do need to market. It's not word of mouth. You need a tipping point of like 200 or 300, 400 patients of those raving fans, plus your networking, plus when they meet you with that pitch, that now the word gets out and then people get filled. And it's a nice experience to be filled. I'm proud of the journey that I took early on in this venture, early on in the DPC movement. And you know, I used to hate Josh for many reasons, but no, I love the guy. And he used to, when I first started, you know, I talked to him, he said, I've seen 18 patients a week. And I'm like, that's no way that's happening. There's no way. You know, so as my first few years, as I was filling up, I'm seeing 50 patients a week, which is still nothing compared to what I was in. So I was fine. I'm now filled in 6:30, and I'm seeing 25 a week. And I think it's because of the care we do. And they could email and text me. I still get text, you know, those text visits, but it really has got to the point where he was right. And you get things all tuned. And how much better is that to see 25 a week versus, you know, 25 a day? And those raving fans, you've given them all that great time and love and care, and they will brag about you. Next slide. So the last thoughts on marketing funnel, we have extra time for questions. And if those burn out, if you ever want to hear it, if you want to hear about the whole Be Well, understand what that Be Well situation is all about, I can tell you about that also. But yeah, the T-shirts on the Be Well, there's a thing behind that.
Don't get distracted.
Yeah, so last thoughts on the marketing funnel. Don't confuse them, you'll lose them. How can you confuse them? Don't get your pitch down. Just be all over the place like Allison talked about. Slowly bring them along. This is a slow pulling that long line in. And it may be 6 months, it may be a month, it may be 4 years, 6 years later, I've got patients that say, yeah, I saw that article about you. I'm like, what article? That article that came out 5 years ago. That's really where they came from. It's unbelievable. And everything you should do on marketing is some subtle call to action. So you've talked to somebody, and I'll go back to the networking thing. Here's a call to action. What do you do? I'm a family doc. End of conversation. They're not, okay, great. Okay, so what, you know, they're not going to talk to you. Now used to, so what do you do? I'm a family doc that does direct primary care. That last few seconds gives them a call to action. Always say, what's direct primary care? There's your pitch. Mm-hmm. Okay? So it took me a while to figure that out. But, you know, like they don't care about family docs, right? But you now gave them something to think about, and they're always going to say, well, what's always going to say, and you have your opening. And now you have your pitch. Their call to action was to ask that next question. The call to action on some of the things that networking does, maybe to go to your website. The call to action is a Facebook Live, go to your website. They get the consumer guide, they give you their email. And now this whole funnel comes down to the right patients who you want to get into your practice. That's marketing basically 101. You can read and you'll find more of the same. I hope you do. But that's our talk basically for today.
Yep. So thank you guys. We made this worksheet so that you guys would have like a take-home template, something that you could take back to your peers, your own networking circles, your own entrepreneurial circles. And the 3 big things to take home today are, you know, the number 1, have a great product. Number 2, clarify your message. And number 3, think reasonably about your marketing and sales funnel. There are steps to get people into your clinic. And what Doug has given you is one way to do it. Keep talking, keep networking here, but be really explicit. I think as physicians, we're type A and organized. And so to be type A and organized about your marketing and sales funnel is just as important as everything else you do. We are by no means experts. We just fumble through this like you do, but we're happy to have a dialogue and have questions. Or Doug's going to tell you about Be Well. Please, somebody ask a question. Let's see, I think you got to Mike first.
Yes, hello, I'm Heidi Braun from Savannah, Georgia. Are there any networking ideas that are a waste of time? I've been thinking about going maybe to the specialists or the ERs, urgent cares. Are any of those not worth the time?
Okay, so specialists and ERs, I think these are great attempts. I think you try them. You know, I actually wrote letters to a few of the independent practices there, the cardiologists and I think it was radiologists and GI, and I wrote them saying, hey, you know, what we do, And by the way, our EMR does not share information with anybody in the hospital, so no one will know. And I thought that was a nice attention grabber that they can get now. They won't see other patients in the waiting room. I didn't get much response, but it's worth a try.
And I think as far as actually going to a networking event, and most of us, anybody who's actually done this understands that there's some that you go to and you're like, this was a disaster and a huge waste of my time. And then there are others. We signed up to host a booth at this one, and then things fell through, so we didn't host the booth. But we did show up. We had another commitment. We stayed for maybe 20, 30 minutes. And out of that, we talked to a couple people, and 3 people joined. So you never know what the right connection is going to be. So keep putting yourself out there if you have the time and the energy to do it.
I'm contemplating how to set up this practice, and how do you do a needs assessment? So I have 2 possible towns that I could set up a practice, and how big and things like that. So I am also a little bit more holistic in my approach to family medicine. Any ideas on that?
What a needs assessment.
I know they need family practice, big time.
Yeah.
I know they need it, but as far as where to put the office and things like that.
So, I mean, kind of what you're saying is how to develop a business plan to figure out what's your target market,
right?
Target demographic. How much can you charge in that target demographic? What sort of market is out there currently within that geographic space and for your target market? And so, perhaps not a needs assessment in the academic sense of how we think about it, but I mean that's business plan 101 is to go through each of those steps and to try and compare both of those 2 different geographic locations. Think about income. You can probably pull data on insurance status if that matters to you, if you think that's going to be a pull. And versus, kind of the mentality of a place, whether they're open to something new versus maybe more entrenched in sort of the insurance world. It's a crapshoot sometimes.
So is it Chamber of Commerce or?
As far as getting the data for that?
Yeah.
You can get it from the chamber. There are a lot of nonprofit foundations that do health assessments and getting grant funding all the way from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation down. There's a lot of community level needs assessments that you can just start Googling for your own specific community.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good luck.
There is a decent book out there, How to Start Your...
Do you remember what it's called?
I don't know. I think it's Start Your Direct Primary Care. I don't know. Some idiot wrote that.
Getting senile.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you. Todd Lentz, Colorado. How do you change a call that you get where you've done the right thing, they're calling you, then they start asking, do you take my insurance? What I've changed my wording to, is that your only requirement? Because if it is, we're not going to be a good fit. Is that a good approach?
So sorry, Doug.
No, okay.
Okay. If you need to talk, you just talk.
Okay.
I think this is about framing and marketing, right? So when everybody gets these calls, they're like, do you take Blue Cross? The answer is not no. The answer is never no, right? Because then you lead with a negative. The answer is, I'm so glad you called, because we take care of anybody regardless of their insurance situation. We just don't bill the insurance company. And lead with that, because that starts the conversation, it doesn't shut it down. And so you can use whatever phraseology and whatever makes sense to you, frankly. But you've got to sort of lay the breadcrumbs out so that they keep asking questions, because there are times when people call and that's their first question. But when you introduce the beginning of a conversation and talk with them about all the value propositions that we discussed, you have by the end of that phone call somebody who's actually interested in joining your practice.
Let me interject real quick. That was great, by the way, how she switched that. And second, I just learned something there too, because the bottom line is I don't get those calls anymore. My staff does.
He doesn't know how to use a phone.
And I do, maybe, but what kind of rotary phone I can use.
Yeah.
But the point is, though, I just thought about that too. I love how she turned that into a positive, and I need to tweak now, thinking about what Christine is my main person, and she's great at selling this, but sometimes, it's easy to say, no, we don't take insurance, and they click, right? And it may not be worth it. Honestly, those people may not even jump anyway, but it's a good way to educate them. So no, that was a very good point.
I say, great, you have insurance, that's awesome. I recommend all our patients have insurance, but we don't require it.
Another good one.
And that rolls right in.
Those words like that,
Yeah.
that's still a positive and creates
Yeah.
a positive image is super powerful.
Real quick comment. A year into starting our DPC, I'm Dave Rogers in Colorado Springs, and I joined a BNI, a Business Networking International group, and then some people it kind of gets a negative thing. You have to pay to get in, but it's a really structured, organized business networking that is like relationship based. Like a third of our patients come from that. I've got like 4 small businesses that have spawned out of that, just because it kind of helps us. We do, it's not just, we don't just show up and have coffee and hang out. We actually focus on each other's businesses and how we can help market each other with good quality and kind of knowing who's doing a great job. So that's something to consider. And there's similar, not just BNI, there's others, but it's not just the Rotary where you kind of go and have your rubber chicken and kind of do whatever and take off.
And the idea, if I'm not mistaken, behind BNI is that you actually are explicit in measuring the results of the network and the referrals by reporting back your income after you make connections. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Right, I'm Oliver Braun from Savannah, Georgia, and I'm going to say something. Our website is designed where people can drop an email just like your form. They put in their information and it comes through the website, because by a website builder I was informed not to put any email addresses in your address box. You like the contact stuff, don't put your email address there. Google doesn't like that. Because it creates a lot of noise in the internet, because now robots come, fish your address, you get all the junk. So what you do is, in your website, you put that in the contact form, question here, and then they can type it in and send it, but they don't see your email. I'm saying this because I get, when I see them in my inbox, it definitely comes from my website. I know it's going to say info at my own email address. And so I know for a fact these people that write me these emails have been to our website, and on our front page, there's basically, it's a picture, there's a little bit of text about it, and then there's across the whole width, there's 4 colored big fat buttons, sign up, separated in age groups and price groups. So the people go there, and I still get these emails where they ask, how much is it?
Oh, yeah.
Do you take Blue Cross? It says, exactly explains it all. And my question is now, did you really cut down on those when you put your form up front, where they look at that?
Yeah, so for me, I have my model, my system is, now we just went up in price. It's $80 a month, $135 a couple, $165 a family. So it's not by age group. So that's just my personal opinion. I didn't want to go the age group route. And there are some questions on prices, but I think they're reading it. I think we have a problem with this country where our attention span is 5 seconds, so that is not going to be fixed. But again, what you're getting, you're bribing them with my guide, or you're bribing them for us to call you to get their email address. It gives them another opportunity to educate them. Right. And they may not get it again, but now you found somebody who's at least taken the effort to do something. That's better than just going out there. So it's something, but you're never going to perfect. I see you're always going to get some people coming in, and I will add to that, again, something we forget is you better educate your front staff person to be as good as what you just did right now. Mm-hmm. Because it's irrelevant if your pitch is perfect, if theirs sucks. They'll kill your practice. Okay, and I said we didn't mention that, but they will kill your practice if they can't sell your practice and have your pitch. So get them as good, have them watch this lecture and learn that as well.
Okay. All right, I have a second point to that. So once I have a form like this in place and I do receive emails from them, how do you actually process the email address? Do you just copy paste them in a big file and then? No,
I use Constant Contact. I should have said that, sorry. So mine goes through Constant Contact, which I use from my office to give a weekly newsletter to my patients only, and that newsletter will be what's going on at the office, what's going on in town, medical problems, and I talk about articles. I always want to be giving my present patients value. But that also Constant Contact I have in a different box will be a leads box or a PDF, a consumer guide box, and if you ask for it, it automatically goes into those boxes, and then I personally do then send them out by just including that list. You can get it automated, and I don't need to.
You can be incredibly automated about that. Right. Both MailChimp and Constant Contact have templates to do that, so you don't even have to think about it.
So this refers to something Doug mentioned right towards the end of the presentation, which is about the cycle. You know, it may take a while for someone to make that decision. That's called long cycle sales. As opposed to short cycle sales, you know, you're going into a store to buy shoes, you're probably going to make a decision right there that day.
Correct.
There's a book I read a long time ago. It's an old book, so it may be hard to find, but it was really good. And don't be put off by the title, because it sounds like political spin. And this is not what the title refers to. It's called Spin Selling. And it talks about the psychology of helping somebody make a decision over a long cycle, as opposed to a very different pitch when you're behind a counter trying to sell a piece of jewelry. It's totally different psychology. And it's just very helpful in how you help people find that decision. And secondly, I mentioned this upstairs. The one thing when you get into, we've seen, my wife is a practitioner and I'm the front guy who doesn't suck. You know, when she's talking to somebody, they're trying to make a decision, you know, when she's talking about the what's, you know, this and this, we do this, people start to fade out. But when she gets into that relationship, she's asking them what they're looking for and how and it's the relationship part of it, that's when they zoom in. So, you got to explain the what, but don't concentrate on that. Right. Concentrate on it. Make that personal connection, and that's when they'll be sold.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Cool.
Hi, we're starting our practice in a town that has a university nearby, and I was wondering if you had any suggestions about marketing to those college kids and their parents.
Yes, in my book, I started out with a college program. I was there with Liberty University, where I'm in Lynchburg, Forest area, and it was great. I made connections with them. They actually sent out an email. We had a different program during the school year. It was $550 a year or $300 a semester. It was all great. And so then the next year they said, we're not going to send your email out, and the next year they stole my program. So, but proving that it works. So these models, I would go after students, because a lot of them are out of town and they can't even go to the local doctor. So the problem is they're going to pay huge prices. So also you can, and I'm not trying to pitch my book, but in there I mentioned, hey, listen, you now can talk to the mom out of state saying, here's what's going on, where a student center can't do that. They have a relationship. The kid has asthma, wants a real doctor in the new town. I'm going to be your doctor in that town. It's a great pitch. So we could talk about that more, but there is definitely opportunity there, and I have others that have told me this worked for them. Jeff?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
I just wanted to bring up one thing that I think has really helped Carmela and I, being in a very heavy insurance-based area in Boston, is find a benefits consultant or broker, you know, in your area. They're not all dirt bags. There are a lot of those, but there's also people who really understand what we're trying to do and also look to build relationships with clients, not just go in every year and say, oh, sorry, like your rates are going to go up, blah, blah, blah. And they can really help you develop a marketing strategy that combines what's out there for insurance. I mean, obviously our area is really limited. We have mostly HMOs on the single individual and self-employed market, so it's really, really tough to navigate.
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes we kind of start getting into hot water that, you know, we know the basics of insurance, but we're still not benefits people. And, you know, the networks and everything can be confusing, and I think it's important to say that insurance is a really important part of what we do. We're not surgeons, we're not oncologists, and that's really what freaks people out the most, especially in areas like we're in, where everything's so specialized. So it's just a word of advice that I think has really helped us.
Thank you.